What's going on, YouTube? Claic Yuzolt back again with a super hype, super excited Final Fantasy Brave Exvius update. The official Final Fantasy Brave Exvius video just dropped for January. They said it was a shorter one. I don't know if they're going to release another one later or not, but if you guys aren't following the official Final Fantasy Brave Exvius YouTube, subscribe to it. Every month they release all these new, you can already see it over here. We're going to be talking about it in a minute, but they release all these new they release a video a month where they go over everything we're going to be getting for the month, you know, tease it a little bit, get us a little excited, and they also release trial fights and then video updates, things like that. So I highly recommend it. It's going to be like your quick little insight to some of the things, and you get to see the producer Shali and everybody like that, Dawes Soul in there. It's pretty cool. So let's talk about what they just announced. They announced the January enhancements, and I thought Ramza was coming this month. I told people on Facebook, they were asking me, do I enhance Soleil? I have Ramza. I don't. I was like, wait, hold off until we see the January enhancements, because I think he's coming, and there he is. Ramza is finally enhanced. That's right. Yay! It happened. Let's go. What is so good about Ramza? Well, he's a bard. Everybody knew that. And he had Hero's Rhyme. And Hero's Rhyme used to buff up a little bit, attack, magic, defense, and spirit. He would sing. He couldn't do anything else. It just wasn't up to par with what you wanted it to be. Well, now it is. If you get it fully enhanced, I think it's going to take support crest. The green ones, not green crest, but support crest. You guys are going to be able to get a 100% buff to attack, defense, magic, and spirit while he's singing, along with a HP heal and an MP recovery for 3 turns. And the MP recovery is nothing too major, but nothing too little either. It's actually kind of middle of the road. It's 20 MP, 0.3 times multiplier on that over 3 turns, so it's still going to be pretty strong, and I'm pretty excited about that. On top of the fact, if that wasn't enough, you guys are going to be able to get in there and enhance his breaks. He has an attack and magic break. You can get those up to 60%, and I like that. That's not the 65 that comes from, like, Delita or Elza, or some of these limit bursted out units that go even higher, but 60% is still really solid and a lot higher than your average. And if you're going to be putting Ramza on your team, maybe you might need to use that. I would enhance it if you can, but if you don't think you're going to use it, don't waste the crystal on it, okay, guys? So, is Ramza better than Roy, Lunera, Soleil? Ramza is kind of like... He is, if I had to choose between them all, I would be using Ramza. The reason being is my teams, I want the HP and MP recovery. He has a very high value on those as compared to, let's say, Roy, and Soleil doesn't have it at all. I'm actually going to leave Lunera out of this right now. She becomes much better after enhancement. So we're really going to be comparing him to Roy and Soleil. So Ramza does the 100%. That's it. All stats get 100% HP MP recovery. Soleil does not do any HP and MP recovery, but she can buff stats by 120%. And that starts happening after you enhance her and you start getting into her dancing rhythm, okay? But she can't do any HP and MP recovery. So you may be missing out on 20% across those stats, but you know, there's no HP and MP recovery if something happens, like Ramza immediately goes to 100% on all stats, whereas Soleil only does it for 1 stat, and then she has to, then she has to start dancing again to get the other stats, and it takes her a while to you know, get up there. But I do want to also point out she does break, so that's another thing for her. She has a little break there that you guys can utilize if you need to. And then talking about Roy, he can get up to 120% buffing up your stats. He takes a while to build up. His singing, it takes a while to get there. His limit burst is really where you want to be with him when you are singing. He does HP and MP recovery. But for me, Ramza is the one I'm going with. A lot of people like Roy. A lot of people like Soleil. I'm just giving you my opinion. The other unit that's get excited about is Aileen. I expect her to be a lot more on your friends list, guys. She becomes a beast after enhancements. I do believe on JP, once she got enhancements, she flew to the top of the rankings. The big thing about her is her chaining move gets changed. It goes from a 50% Earth Imperil to a 75%. It goes from a 5-hit to a 7-hit, and I think the chaining frames are like 28. It makes it easier to chain, if I'm not wrong. Let me know in the comments below. I haven't tested it out myself, but from what I've heard, it makes it easier to chain with. And it goes to a 5 times multiplier after, you know, taking in the 50% defense ignore. Very, very strong ability. Her other enhancements you want to look at is the one that gave her attack percent, then gave her 50% against machines and stone. That's getting a huge buff. Okay, we're going to get an HP percent added on that. The 2 killer abilities are going up to 75% against machine and stone, and she gets spear mastery added on that. So she gets even more attack percentage, and you do want to spear on her as her artisan, which is her TMR, which is what you want for her. So I expect Aileen to be around a lot more. Very, very strong, and I just can't wait to get my hands on that chaining and see how it is. I didn't enhance Orlando yet. I don't even think I have enough Chris to enhance Aileen here, because Agri's put me in a big hole so I can do those videos for you guys. So I'm gonna have to, I hope there's a story event. I think there is one with CG Lasswell, so I hope it's coming this week. We'll get into CG Lasswell in a minute. And then also on Aileen over here, she gets like her supporting oil or whatever buffed up. She gets more of an HP buff on that. It was over 3 turns. She'd heal everybody HP-wise. And he gets a limit burst increase fill rate on that. I think it's 50%, so not the worst, but you're probably not using that with Aileen anyway. But the 75% Earth Imperil, holy snap. And then, like, her moves better. It's just so good. And then as far as Folan and all the rest of these are concerned, I know a lot of people use Victoria. Folan's going to be a little bit different. And again, guys, these are going to all change because this is global. They change things with global all the time. You never know, but hopefully they keep Ramza and Aileen either just as good or better because we don't want them changing at all. And the other ones, we'll try to talk about them the more I see them. And if they're super important, I'll try to bring them up in a video, okay? And speaking of CG Lasswell, let's get into that and teach you guys what all that's about. That's right, guys. They just announced my boy, CG Lasswell. CG Lasswell, Ice Knight, Super Fire, Pyromaniac, Frozen Man. Yeah, that's right, guys. If you don't know anything about the CG units, it's time you learn, okay? And I'm gonna avoid spoilers as much as I can, but I'm too excited about the story, and I'm too excited for these units to come. They are nicknamed CG. You know, all the story characters will be getting new iterations of themselves. Now, we were given these story characters earlier on for free, but we're gonna have to be pulling for Season 2 counterparts, and most of them are extremely powerful. And the reason they're nicknamed CG is because, you know, when you would be playing like an old Final Fantasy and you'd be going through and out of nowhere Cloud would go looking for being like an 8-bit, like, or not 8-bit, but like, you know what I mean? Like the little polygon looking man to like glorious, beautiful movie type thing. Well, that's what we get with these CG characters, the story characters. They get awesome limit burst. And I'm going to try to show off Lasswell's over here. When you use their limit burst, you get that little CG, kind of similar to the way the Espers look when you summon the Espers. And that's how they got the nickname CG. And the reason I'm so excited about these units is, one, I really love the story. The story has, if you guys aren't paying attention to the Final Fantasy Brave Exvius story, there's if you leave the King Mog trade-in, go down, like if you're looking at the map, go down to the right, there's a little book. You can rewatch everything if you need to. I recommend you doing it because it's gotten so good, and these units are going to be powerful, and they're from the story, and I really love them. And CG Lasswell is going to be awesome. And the reason I thought he was going to be good to begin with. Now, he wasn't groundbreaking, but he was going to be amazing. And he has like an innate, and we're not going to go over him too much, but I'm going to give you a little taste. He has innate dual wield. But it's a different kind of dual wield. You have to put a greatsword and katana on him, so you're not going to have to waste a slot for dual wield, but he has to use greatswords and katanas, which is pretty good because he does put down the wind. He imperils wind, he imperils ice, and he imperils fire. I'm thinking maybe Kumai's TM, the katana, with maybe a beast lord, or perhaps maybe if you guys have Vargas, I didn't get Vargas, use that Daldaga, his fire sword, and then put on 2B's TM, or maybe another katana that you have, because he does have katana and greatsword masteries on top of himself. You know, they give him different stats and things like that, so you want to make sure that's on top of him. And then he have like a move you could use once every 4 turns. It gives him some things that happen to him, and it unlocks like a super move that he can use. Well, that is going to be buffed in Global, apparently. It's going to be easier to get a hold of. He's going to have higher multipliers, maybe too, mods on his thing. They talked about in this video. I mean, I'm just uber excited about it, and it's so flavorful the way they crafted this character. It was the first time I actually looked at it like a couple days ago. I try to stick away from Japanese spoilers as much as possible. Obviously, I learn about it as I go, but like, let me tell you, this guy seemed cool before, and I actually wanted to pull him. Now that we're getting global buffs to him, it makes me want to pull for him even more. The one thing I do want to talk about, too, is I never thought Gumi would ever buff him. Like, it didn't make any sense to me, because they didn't buff Cloud, and I thought Cloud would be somebody they would buff, because, you know, he wasn't that strong, and he's strong, but he's not like top tier. Like, nobody was like, oh man, Cloud's like broken. And they didn't buff him, so I was like, well, maybe Gumi, if a unit doesn't do well, considering like Folan maybe didn't do well in JP, or somebody didn't do well in Banner, we'll buff them here in Global so people want them more and want to try to pull for him more. Well, I'm sure CG Lasswell didn't do bad in JP. You know, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong down in the chat, but this guy is awesome. He was the first one of his kind, and a lot of people like Lasswell, and he was pretty strong. He wasn't top tier, but he was pretty strong, so already. So this just proves that Gumi will buff things, and it makes me even more excited for the future, because that means things are going to be a-changing. So a lot of cool things coming to this game. I'm super excited. If you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up. Comment down below whose enhancements you're excited about, or if you want to pull this CG Lasswell over here, I pointed the wrong way, and then subscribe for future content. We'll catch you guys in the next video.